Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Last week I bought an iMac G3 off of Facebook Marketplace. This also included the original keyboard and mouse. The seller said he saved it from being thrown out by an elderly couple who were using it up until very recently, and apparently they're now using a brand new MacBook. So, is it any good and does it still work? Let's find out. This is a 500 MHz Indigo model. While this isn't the most powerful iMac G3, it's the model Apple kept selling for the longest. You can see it on Apple's website progressively getting pushed further down the store page as newer machines were released. But in March of 2003, nearly 2 years after its release, it was finally discontinued. Pressing in the power button on the front, we get that also nostalgic boot chime. You can also hear the hard disk boot into life. The flickering you see on screen isn't present in real life. It is caused by the shutter speed of my camera not matching the refresh rate of the CRT monitor. Now that we're in, we can see that the clock battery has died and the timer is reset back to 1904. For the nearly 20 years this Mac was used, they'd been running it at a low resolution of 640 by 480 in 256 color mode. While this does yield an impressive refresh rate of 117 Hz, it makes it very hard to film with my camera. 1024 by 768 at 75 Hz removes most of the flicker as I can match the refresh rate with my camera. Although I will admit, I feel like 640 by 480 looks a lot sharper on this monitor. But my camera doesn't allow me to dial in the shutter speed precisely enough to remove the flickering in that case. It turns out that running the iMac in a high resolution mode also makes the icons on startup smaller. Watching all the extensions load on startup honestly never gets old. Before we give this iMac a clean, let me show you how you can clean your very own Mac using today's sponsor, Clean My Mac X. For over 10 years, Clean My Mac has been the go-to tool for cleaning up and optimizing your Mac-based computer. I actually first used Clean My Mac back in 2012 when my computer setup looked like this. The latest version is a comprehensive app that's designed to make your Mac as good as new. The Smart Scan all-in-one scanner analyzes and finds ways to improve your Mac. It's simple and only takes the press of a button. Once it's done scanning, you can see the results and choose what you want removed fast and efficiently. I also found the real-time system status widget to be pretty useful to see how my MacBook is running. And if you want to install applications properly, give the uninstaller module a try. This also removes numerous files that are usually left behind by simply dragging an application into the trash bin. If you want to try it out or find out more, feel free to use the link in the description below. Whether you want to free up space, make your Mac run faster, or uninstall apps properly, Clean My Mac X has you covered. It says on the base of this unit it's shipped with 128 MB of RAM, a fairly low amount near the end of this iMac's retail life. Upgrading the RAM in one of these is actually pretty easy, and it doesn't look like the hatch has ever been opened before. Inside is a single stick of PC100 SD Ram, which confirms that this hasn't had its RAM upgraded over the last 20 years. From what I understand, this iMac sat in the same place for its whole life, which explains why it still has the original protective plastic on the handle. And apart from it being a little bit dirty in some places, I think it'll scrub up pretty well. The translucent plastic is truly beautiful from many angles, and here we've got a decent look at the LG CRT tube within. It's a shame that a lot of these early iMac G3s are starting to fail due to flyback transformer failure. This particular model is known to have power supply related issues, largely caused by overheating. The holes surrounding the handle aren't just a cool aesthetic, they're essential to keep the fanless computer from overheating. I was surprised as well, but it turns out that all of the slot loading iMac G3 models are cooled passively by taking in air through the base and exhausting it out the top. So if you own one of these, I'd recommend flipping down that stand for better airflow. First of all, to begin the cleaning, I removed the old Apple stickers with the help of some sticker remover. This stuff helps break down the adhesive, and letting it soak in for a bit, the sticker came off pretty easily. The remaining residue wiped off after I applied a little bit more sticker remover, and without much effort the other sticker came off as well. I think it's time we give this old Mac a clean with a healthy dose of eucalyptus oil. One area where dust has collected in abundance is in the recessed plastic of the handle. And as much as it was cool to see the original plastic covering the handle, it was already peeling off, so I decided to remove it entirely, and underneath the clear plastic it was in pristine condition. The outer shell itself was looking a bit grubby, but from a distance you'd struggle to notice. Here's a before and after close-up, which is a bit easier to see. The glass display appeared to have some scratches on the surface, but after a gentle wipe, it appears to be spotless. Around the casing there are a number of scratches, and to remove them I used some automotive cut and polish. This may not be the best way to do it, but it's always worked well for me on frosted plastics. The other scrapes came off pretty easily, and it's always worth checking underneath as well. Lifting this heavy Mac upside down, yes, it's definitely heavier than it looks, at nearly 16 kilograms, we can see a series of small scratches on the front, which I'm pretty sure happened when the seller placed it front first onto the pavement when he dropped it off. Now to begin the disassembly, this small cover on the base has to come off, which reveals a VGA output connector allowing you to attach an external monitor, which is what I had set up 11 years ago. To get access to the logic board, the plastic base has to be removed. I followed the tutorial pretty closely, but it took quite a bit of effort to release the plastic clips on the front. Thankfully, they didn't snap off. This gives us our first look at the electromagnetic interference cover, or EMI for short. This is in place to help protect from interference caused by the CRT in close proximity to the components within. To remove the shield, there are a few more screws, and after some wiggling, the logic board is free from its cage for the first time. It really doesn't look like there's any dust, and overall it's very clean. iMac G3s of this vintage are also notorious for having bad capacitors that bulge and leak, but all the ones I can see on here look absolutely fine. While this Mac was apparently used up until very recently, I get the feeling it wasn't used a lot over the last 20 years. And since it's functioning really well, I see no need to disassemble it further. I will, however, be putting in a new 3.6V lithium PRAM battery. These can be purchased for about $5 online, and the new battery will allow the system to remember the time and save certain system functions. With the case off, we also get a good look at the orbs that house the speakers. It looks like they're super glued together. Maybe that improves the sound, who knows? Over the years, a thin layer of dust has built up inside the casing, so I was sure to wipe it off, getting the plastic looking as shiny as possible. The shielding was also a bit grimy as well. I also really liked the shiny metal piece on the back of the CRT. Apple really put some effort into making this look like a really stylish little computer. And with it all back together, we get to admire this marvelous piece of retro tech. That glossy surface is just so pleasing to see. Now that the iMac itself is clean, the same must be done to the peripherals. The mouse had a bit of gunk around the edges, and the USB cable had become quite grubby over time. Nothing a bit of elbow grease can't fix. The keyboard, however, was filthier than I was expecting. You can really tell which keys were being used the most, which is kind of disgusting to think about. I began the cleanup by sucking up the dust and debris from around the keycaps. I worked on this off camera for a while as well. I even managed to suck up a few keys with the vacuum cleaner. You may be wondering why this didn't come with an Apple keyboard and puck mouse that matched the color of the iMac. Well, that's because Apple started shipping their Macs with the humbly dubbed Pro keyboard and mouse in the year 2000. While it looks neat, it's not really that much more functional than the hockey puck mouse due to it still only having a single button. The Apple Pro keyboard is a welcome upgrade though. The layout is very close to what you'd see today, and the arrow keys are spaced out further, and there are dedicated function keys for volume and disk ejection, although the absence of a secondary power button is a bit of a step backwards. Taking a look around the Indigo iMac, it's very easy to see why these sold well. When it comes to the ports, you've got USB, Firewire, and even Ethernet built in. There's even audio in and out, as well as 2 headphone jacks on the front. And if you want to, you can adjust the height for easier viewing or carry it anywhere with the help of the handle on the back. So I think it's time we should pop in some discs and try a few programs on this old iMac. KidPix is a program I had heaps of fun playing at school about 20 years ago. You can make wonderful pieces of art that move and other seizure-inducing things. I call this one the animals that went to Taco Bell. While this iMac should be more than capable of playing Quake 2, it really struggled for some reason. I'd be guessing it's a driver-related issue. Yes, you may recognize this image. It's the thumbnail for this very video. Even this ancient version of Photoshop 4.0 is still pretty usable today, which really surprised me. After plugging in an Ethernet cable into the iMac, Internet Explorer was able to get online. It was surprisingly fast, but couldn't seem to load any actual web pages apart from msn.com for some reason. It's always a blast messing around with these old Apple computers. I remember when I used to make YouTube videos about them back in 2010. A lot has definitely changed since then. So there we have it, Apple's last iMac G3. It is truly a very iconic design. and these are starting to become quite valuable. One in a very similar style sold for $350 recently on eBay. So the days of finding a whole bunch of these for $20 is well and truly gone. Anyway, I'm very glad to have another one of these in my collection, and if you've enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more, definitely consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.